From the 1970s through the early 2000s, Britain's takeaway scene was a world of its own. High streets glowed with the light of chip shops, kebab counters and curry houses, each one creating fast, filling meals tailored to local tastes and tight budgets. Health rules were looser, frying fats were heavier, and customers were used to queuing with coins in hand for food wrapped in newspaper or waxed paper. Over time, rising costs, new regulations and shifts in taste swept many of those once familiar dishes away. What follows is a trip through 20 takeaway meals that used to define Britain's eating habits, but have almost disappeared today. One of the cheapest and most common snacks in a 70s chippy was the Spam fritter. Thick slices of the tinned pork were dipped in a bubbly batter and fried until crisp, turning an austerity staple into a hot, salty indulgence. Schoolchildren bought them on the walk home, and shift workers relied on them as a protein boost with chips. As health warnings about processed meat mounted and pork prices rose, the humble Spam fritter faded from heated cabinets, leaving only memories of its crunchy, greasy edges. In the Northeast, no lunchtime snack was more distinctive than the Savoy dip sandwich. A bright red, highly seasoned sausage sat in a soft bun, slathered with peas pudding or mustard, then soaked in onion gravy. It was messy, steaming, and unmistakably local. Queues would form outside Sunderland and Newcastle takeaways for this dripping treat. As chains expanded and fewer shops kept vats of gravy on the boil, the Savoy dip sandwich retreated to a handful of specialist counters. In the 70s and 80s, a first order in many curry houses was a tub of mulligatawny soup. This Anglo-Indian broth of spices, lentils, and sometimes rice was a gentle introduction to curry for cautious diners. Takeaways ladled it into plastic containers so customers could sip it while waiting for their main course. As regional Indian cooking gained popularity, the once ubiquitous mulligatawny soup began to look old-fashioned and slowly disappeared from menus. One of the most recognizable British-Chinese hybrids was chicken in breadcrumbs with curry sauce. A flattened, breaded chicken breast came fried to a golden crunch, then smothered in chip shop-style curry sauce, half schnitzel, half comfort food. Families who wanted something different but not too spicy ordered it by name. Today it survives mostly in supermarket freezers, with few high street takeaways still making chicken in breadcrumbs with curry sauce to order. For a few years in the 1990s, balti pies were the must-have stadium and takeaway food. Curry house-style chicken or lamb in a spiced tomato sauce sat inside short crust pastry, easy to hold at half-time or on the walk home. Takeaways followed football grounds in stocking them, but the novelty faded and health inspectors cracked down on on-site reheating. Outside a few Midlands bakeries, the balti pie has become a nostalgia item. Back when nothing went to waste, special fried rice in Chinese takeaways often meant diced liver, heart and gizzards tossed with soy and spring onions. This mixed offal version was cheap protein with a deep, savoury punch, a far cry from today's polite scatter of prawns. As British tastes shifted away from organ meat and suppliers tightened hygiene rules, the mixed offal special fried rice was tamed into the blander version we see now. In the late 70s and early 80s, pubs and seaside takeaways alike served scampi in a basket, breaded langoustine tails fried golden, heaped in a paper-lined plastic basket. Marketed as a touch of luxury, it was a Friday night treat for families and couples alike. As frozen scampi quality declined, the dish's reputation fell with it, and scampi in a basket became a rarity outside nostalgia-themed pubs. Northern chip shops once offered vegetarians a distinctive snack, the mushy pea fritter. A chilled disc of thick, mushy peas was dipped in batter and fried, creating a crunchy shell with a soft, earthy center. Sold for pennies, it became a favorite of children and adults alike. As freezers replaced fresh prep and menus streamlined, the mushy pea fritter slipped into obscurity. Before chicken became the default meat for curry, vindaloo in Britain was most often made with pork. This fiery vinegar-based dish arrived from Goa via sailors and colonial returnees and was considered authentic in port towns like Liverpool and Southampton. Changing religious sensitivities and customer preference for chicken saw pork vindaloo vanish by the late 80s, replaced by the milder, different-tasting versions of today. In pie shops and takeaway bakeries, the corned beef and onion pasty was a lunchtime staple. Its salty tinned beef mixed with sweet onion, inside flaky pastry, defined the smell of many high streets. Builders and schoolchildren bought them to eat on the move. As corned beef fell out of fashion and sourcing worries grew, the corned beef and onion pasty was edged out by steak or chicken alternatives. Long before paninis and wraps, sandwich shops displayed ham salad rolls with brown sauce as an everyday lunch. Soft white rolls filled with plain ham and shredded iceberg lettuce, brightened only by a squirt of tangy sauce, were easy to wrap in waxed paper and eat on the bus. As expectations for sandwich fillings became more exotic, the humble ham and brown sauce roll became an endangered sight. Among the towers of pies and sausage rolls, cafes also offered cheese and pickle doorstop sandwiches, 2 thick slices of crusty bread holding a slab of cheddar and Branston pickle. Cheap, vegetarian-friendly and hearty, they were cut into triangles and wrapped in greaseproof paper. One of the most memorable creations from kebab shops in the 80s and 90s was the chicken tikka burger. Instead of the standard grilled chicken breast, the burger featured spiced, marinated chunks of chicken tikka tucked into a soft bun with salad and sauce. For years, it was a go-to choice for people craving something familiar but a little more exotic than the usual fast food. The rise of burger chains and the cost of tikka meat eventually phased out the chicken tikka burger, leaving it a relic of a bygone takeaway era. Back in the 90s, doner meat pizzas were a bold experiment that merged the best of 2 fast foods, pizza and kebabs. A pizza base was topped with tomato sauce, cheese, and slices of spiced lamb from the rotisserie, then baked until everything melded together in a greasy, satisfying combination. It was the late-night meal of choice for hungry students and night owls. However, as pizza chains refined their offerings and customers started demanding more authentic pizza experiences, doner meat pizza began to fade into obscurity, leaving behind only fond and slightly greasy memories. The mixed meat kofte wrap was a kebab house classic in the 80s and 90s. Instead of the standard single-meat kebabs we're used to today, these wraps offered a blend of lamb and beef, kofte sausages grilled together, and served with a generous portion of salad and sauces in a warm pita or wrap. It was hearty, smoky, and filling, perfect for a late-night snack. But over time, the mixed meat version lost favor as customers opted for cleaner, single-meat options, and the once popular mixed kofte wrap gradually disappeared from most menus. Before gourmet pizzas became the norm, some takeaway shops offered cheese and baked beans pizza, a true product of the 90s. This unusual pizza topped a traditional base with tomato sauce, melted cheddar, and a generous helping of baked beans. It was a quirky combination that some people adored for its comforting, if odd, pairing of sweet and savory. Over time, as pizza chains expanded and consumer tastes evolved, this peculiar topping was edged out by more acceptable options, leaving cheese and baked beans pizza to exist mainly as a nostalgic oddity. In the 90s, some Indian takeaways experimented with curry pizzas, combining the Italian classic with Indian flavors. The idea was simple: a pizza crust topped with chicken tikka or a mild korma sauce finished off with cheese. These curry pizzas were an attempt to satisfy both curry lovers and pizza fans in one meal. But the combination never really caught on, as the soggy crust and mismatched flavors never quite worked as intended. As a result, curry pizzas were quietly phased out, leaving only faint memories of a crossover food experiment. In the heyday of takeaway chip shops, fish cake stacks were a popular choice, particularly in coastal regions. A stack of 2 or 3 fried fish cakes was served, often with slices of bread or a potato between them. Customers would drizzle vinegar or sauce over the top and dig in, enjoying the comforting texture of the battered cakes and the soft fish inside. The stacked fish cake, distinct from the modern, factory-made single patty, was a substantial, filling snack. But as convenience and pre-made frozen options took over, the fish cake stack gradually vanished from the menu, replaced by quicker, less messy options. Jam roly-poly, the sticky, steamed dessert wrapped in sponge and filled with fruity jam, was once a regular offering at many chip shops. Sliced and served with a spoonful of custard in a plastic tub, it was a warm, comforting treat for customers craving something sweet to round off their meal. It was particularly beloved by children and became a cheap and cheerful way to add a sweet touch to a family dinner. Before fried Mars bars became a worldwide novelty food, they were a genuine indulgence at Scottish chip shops, particularly in the 80s. A Mars bar was chilled, dipped in batter, and then fried until the chocolate melted and oozed out. It was sweet, salty, and gloriously messy, everything you'd want in a guilty pleasure. But as the novelty became more widely known and media attention around its unhealthy status grew, most shops either dropped the fried Mars bar or began to treat it as a tourist attraction rather than a regular menu item. So, why did so many of these once beloved takeaway classics vanish? A lot of it comes down to rising ingredient costs and the changing economics of running a takeaway. Labor-intensive or meat-heavy dishes like balti pies became harder to afford as prices shot up. Health and safety regulations also played a part, discouraging the use of offal or in-house preparations. On top of that, the rise of big chains, health-conscious trends, and a shift toward lighter international cuisines meant that old-school takeaway staples like saveloy dip sandwiches or mulligatawny soup simply couldn't compete. Today, many of these dishes exist only in the memories of a few, with no one left to keep them alive. What was once the heart and soul of Britain's high streets now feels like a lost chapter in the nation's culinary history.